This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. While it is a mostly quiet day on the federal campaign trail, reporters have been asking NDP leader Jagmeet Singh about Liberal leader Justin Trudeau's request for a meeting. Trudeau wants to apologize personally for the blackface scandal that rocked the Liberal campaign this week. Singh, who campaigned in Toronto today, says he is willing to meet, but only under certain conditions. CBC's Hannah Thibodeau is traveling with the NDP leader.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is going full tilt with his schedule, not taking a day off. Today in Toronto, he sat down with a group of young leaders to talk to them about what they felt when they saw Justin Trudeau wearing black and brown face in multiple images.
What do you think? How has it impacted you? If you want to share that, it might be tough, so you don't feel obligated to have to talk about that. But if you have a feeling, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say when he released his apology, it was interesting to me because when you do an apology, it's more of like it's a mistake. I don't think that after 3 times of doing it, it's a mistake. I think it's a choice.
One of the biggest things I've been hearing over the course of this election is that Canada is not ready for a prime minister with a turban.
Right. Yeah.
But somehow the same people are making the defense of a prime minister who wears one as a joke.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel so invalidated.
Singh says he clearly wants to keep the focus on the people who were impacted and hurt by this. So he has conditions on whether he and Mr. Trudeau will have a conversation.
I want to make it clear, Mr. Trudeau's office reached out to mine, and we said I would be, if he wants to speak with me, if that's his wish, he wants to speak with me, that I would accept the invitation on a certain condition. I don't want to be used as a tool to exonerate Mr. Trudeau. I don't want to be a part of a PR process to say he checked off these boxes and look, he made this call and now he's all good. I don't want to be a part of that.
Singh appears more relaxed, engaged, and comfortable as the leader. He even says there seems to be a new energy over the past couple of days. So it has been important for him to continue to campaign, even on days when the other parties, the Liberals and Conservatives, are down, so Singh can get his message out. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Toronto.
Hundreds of climate activists, most of them under the age of 30, held the first UN Youth Climate Summit today in New York. Loudly and clearly, they demanded politicians around the world take urgent action to slow the climate crisis that threatens their futures. Stephen D'Souza has more from New York.
They are young, angry, and they say the need for action is urgent.
We don't have much time left. We have until 2030 to do something fundamental here.
An estimated 250,000 people flooded Lower Manhattan today, among them Canadian Calvin Yang.
I am genuinely scared that my future will be impacted by climate change and that millions of us will be impacted by climate change.
Many students here talk about fear. 15-year-old Mark Burt says his teacher recently asked their class how many students thought the world would be unlivable before they got to college.
Most of our peers raise their hands because all of that's happening in our world.
Concern for the future is fueling worldwide protests from South Africa to Australia to the United Kingdom. In a moment many hope is a global tipping point.
The students here have 3 key demands: end dependence on fossil fuels, protect communities on the front lines of climate change, and punish the polluters.
They took that message right to the heart of Wall Street today. All of this inspired by 16-year-old Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. In New York, she called on governments to act.
They have a chance to prove that they, too, are united behind the science. They have a chance to take leadership, to prove they actually hear us.
But students know the adults in charge, from the U.S. president on down, may not be taking them seriously. Still, they say, there's no time to waste.
You can't change things later, you have to change things now.
If we want to have a future, we have to
change it now. So, yeah.
At the United Nations General Assembly next week, and leaders coming from around the world, they hope their message is heard loud and clear. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
Family and friends of a Scarborough man are desperately searching for answers. Mikhail Gabbro won millions in a lottery 2 years ago. This past week, he was found dead in Ethiopia, and the circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery. Our Angelina King spoke with his family at a vigil held in his honor.
Family and friends here say it's difficult to mourn when there are so many unanswered questions. They know that Mikhail Gabbro died while visiting family in Ethiopia on Saturday, but they wonder what led to his killing. Was he targeted? Who was behind it? Did it have anything to do with his recent wealth?
Difficult because even at this point, we're not too sure. Is this a botched robbery? Is this something that was premeditated? It's going to take some time before the police are able to investigate and to really make sense of what seems like a senseless killing, you know? And for somebody who loved life and wanted to make a difference in every respect.
I just seen him 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about back to school shopping and how we're going to spend time together. Unfortunately, that never happened. But
his family says he was humble, he was kind, and he was generous. They say after he won the lottery, his main focus was giving back to his community, and that's what he did. He donated generously to the church here and had plans on investing in his community back home in Ethiopia. Now, that's where his immediate family is right now. They held a funeral for him on Monday, but the community here wanted to do something to honor him, so today they held a prayer service and a vigil. Now, 2 years ago, he was laid off of his job as an assembly plant worker. He checked a lottery ticket. He thought he won about $15. Turns out it was $10.7 million. Now the family is hoping that the Canadian government can help them get some kind of answers. We reached out to the embassies both in Ethiopia and in Canada, but have not heard back. Now, Global Affairs did confirm his death, but they aren't saying much. In a statement released to CBC News, they say thoughts and sympathies are with the family of the Canadian citizen who died in Ethiopia. It says consular services are being provided, but it won't disclose any more information, citing the Privacy Act. And friends and family say that Gabbro didn't change at all after he won the lottery. And that's what today is about, to remember him for the humble, kind, and generous person that he was. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
A man has serious injuries tonight after being struck by a TTC bus in Scarborough. It happened near Kingston and Overture Roads in the Guildwood area. Emergency crews arrived there just after 2:30 this afternoon and rushed the pedestrian to a nearby hospital. Police say the man is in his mid-20s. They are investigating the incident. People took to the streets of Toronto today to bring awareness to the problem of human trafficking. The 5-kilometer walk, organized by the group Free Them, is the largest march of its kind in Canada. As Kelda Yoon reports, organizers say education and awareness are key to saving more victims.
For the 7th year, hundreds walked through downtown calling for an end to what they say is a big problem that is largely hidden.
Well, I just think that it's something people don't want to talk about.
The march this afternoon preceded by a talk from survivor Ronelle Bruder.
How does human trafficking happen?
Bruder was just 16 and homeless when a recruiter introduced her to a pimp who manipulated her into working in a strip club.
And I thought that I had this person in my life who cared about me and was protecting me. And if I just did what they told me, everything was going to be okay.
So she did, only escaping after she saw her pimp, who masqueraded as her boyfriend, beat another girl badly. She's been trying to heal ever since.
That's a lifelong journey, right? So, I mean, it's basically for the rest of your life. You're on a healing journey.
Organizers say 15 to 20,000 people have been trafficked in Canada at any moment in time. And they say the average age of entry into prostitution in Canada is only 13 years old.
I think the biggest misconception that Canadians have is that they're expecting to see people, girls, physically with chains on their wrists, and I like to call them invisible chains. And so victims are trained and they're tortured and held with such fear that they could be standing in front of you and me and you would never know.
Shea Invidiata started the organization Free Them in 2010 with the aim to raise money to help victims and to educate more people about the signs of trafficking.
So that's a really big wake-up call to parents, to teachers, to like keep an eye on what's going on in your classrooms, knowing your students, but also to parents to not be fooled.
I'm also a mom of a daughter who's 4 years old, and I think, you know, the older she's getting, the more I'm realizing that if we don't take a stand, you know, all of our children are susceptible, and it's really haunting.
As of the tally this morning, the event has raised $80,000 for Aurora House, a Toronto shelter for young girls who have been trafficked. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontarians fighting against ALS put their strength to the ultimate test today in a tug of war. On one side, a team of 10 people. On the other, a 37,000-pound plane.
Hard! Don't stop! Don't stop! Don't stop! Hurry! Listen to the whistle! You all right? Oh.
The strength of more than 100 participants on display there at a fundraising event in downtown Toronto. The ALS Society of Canada organizes the annual challenge. This year, they're hoping to pull in $160,000.
My friend Eddie was diagnosed, had ALS for almost 27 years and unfortunately passed away last January. And I've always tried to do everything I could with Eddie so we could raise as much awareness and funds for the cause, so eventually we'll find a treatment.
ALS Canada estimates there are around 100,000 Ontarians living with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Well, let's check in with Marta Chirilevich for the weather forecast, which for the last weekend of summer, Marta, pretty great.
Yes, and it was very hot. Nice day for that ALS challenge. And by the way, nice color shirt.
I know. We got the memos.
So let's take a look at the overnight temperature. I mean, 17 degrees. That is definitely well above normal, which for this time of year is around 10. And as you mentioned, it was a beautiful weekend, and it will still be a nice day tomorrow. Definitely very warm. So we're looking at an overnight temperature of 17. That's when you can crack your window open and have that fresh breeze come through the windows. Let's look at the satellite radar. So right now there's actually not much happening in southern Ontario. In extreme southwestern Ontario, that's where we could see some of those storms sort of bubbling up, but nothing really happening through the GTA, which is nice. So a nice clear day, and tomorrow it's going to be really, really hot and muggy. 26 degrees, feeling like 32. So that humidity is definitely there, and it's going to be a little bit warmer than maybe some people like. The precipitation forecast. Now there is a chance of showers tomorrow, but it's in through the evening hours. You'll see this front swinging through, and it will bring sort of a line of storms throughout cottage country. So if you are at your cottage for the last weekend, there is a chance that you could see some of that heavy rainfall. Actually, it's pretty certain that you will, and see these values throughout 5 to 10 millimeters. But I will have more about what temperatures you can see a little bit later in the week. Starting Monday, there will be a little bit of a cool down, and exactly when you'll see that rain. So we'll talk a little bit about that in your long range forecast.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Marta.
Want, you know, older girls and younger generations to be able to get paid professionally to play professional women's hockey, because only so many players can make it to the national team programs, and there's a lot more talent out there that needs to be shown on a weekly and daily basis.
The biggest names in Canadian women's hockey are going on tour, playing a series of games to highlight the fact that there is no pro women's league. The Dream Gap Tour kicked off here in Toronto, and we'll take you there after the break. A group of top professional women's hockey players is on a North American tour, showcasing their skills as well as highlighting their battle for equal pay. Loretta Redicop has more on the group's Toronto stop.
These are some of the best women's hockey players in the world, but they don't have a pro league. Some used to play for the Canadian Women's Hockey League, but it folded, running out of money. Plus, players were making next to nothing.
Very, very minimal, around maybe $2,000 for the year, and it's tough. I know that we're striving for much more. We deserve to get funded and, get little things like healthcare.
That in a sport where it's so different for the top male players.
It's crazy to know that how much they do make, and we don't want to make millions. It's not realistic. It's not what we want, but we want to be able to have enough money that we can just focus on hockey.
They've started their own union and are showcasing the game, open to the possibilities.
I believe the NHL plays a part in the next step of the women's game. I think obviously it's up to them how big a part they want to play.
But the NHL says it will only get involved if there's no other league. One is operating in the U.S. The women here refuse to play in it. It doesn't pay a living wage. The young fans want more.
It's not fair. Like, some girls, they want to grow up to be hockey players, but we can't.
Yeah, I think women should be able to have a league that they can play in and have fun and make money.
When I was younger, I've always wanted to be in the NHL, but then I found out that I can't.
This journalist attended some of the games in the former Canadian League with just 50 to 100 fans. She says a lot is riding on this tour.
They can show that they're getting over 1,000 fans to come out to games, and I think it will fast track what they're hoping for, because they are proving that people care about women's hockey.
The games here run all weekend with other players from the association facing off in 2 U.S. cities. Plus, there are more events planned starting next month. These players are trying to show off their skills on the ice as they launch a full-on offensive off it. Loretta Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Today would have been Leonard Cohen's 85th birthday, and his fans are getting a gift. A new posthumous album of previously unreleased music has been announced. Yelena Adzik tells us more about it.
Bare musical sketches. That's how Sony Music Canada describes Leonard Cohen's forthcoming album, Thanks for the Dance. The tracks were recorded shortly before the iconic singer died and completed by his musician son, Adam Cohen. Also lending a hand or a voice, Leslie Feist, Jennifer Warnes, producer Daniel Lanois, and Beck on guitar. Now here's how Cohen's son described the vibe. In composing and arranging the music for his words, we chose his most characteristic musical signatures, in this way keeping him with us. What moves me most about the album is the startled response of those who have heard it. Leonard lives, they say, one after the other. Now, while the album doesn't come out until November 22nd, let's give a listen now to the snippet that has been released. It's a somber song, and it's called The Goal.
As for the fall, it began long ago. Can't stop the rain, can't stop the snow. I sit in my chair, I look at the street. The neighbor returns my smile of defeat.
The wistful tone of that song matches the sentiment of a documentary that was released earlier this year. Marianne and Leonard, Words of Love, is based on Cohen's relationship with his longtime muse. Their now famous letters have been shared with the world. So what better accompaniment than a stamp? In fact, a set of stamps, newly released to commemorate the Canadian crooner. They portray the poet, novelist, and songwriter in 3 stages of his life and artistry. It's a thoughtful goodbye that echoes the title of Leonard Cohen's posthumous album, Thanks for the Dance. Yelena Adzik, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a live look at the Toronto skyline. Sunny and 24 degrees right now. How much longer can we hold on to this ideal summer weather? Marta's back with another look after the break.
Hi, I'm Arthur Simeon, host of Accent on Toronto 2019, CBC's annual comedy showcase right here at the Danforth Music Hall. I'm going to be here with Toronto's top comedic talent on Wednesday, October 9th, 2019. Please go get your tickets today. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster. Please go get yours today. No, I mean like right now. Like go. Like right, go get. All right.
A beloved Toronto matriarch is celebrating a milestone today. Pupe, the Sumatran orangutan, is 52 years old. That makes her the second oldest in North America. The average lifespan of an orangutan in the wild is 35 to 40 years old. But Pupe is no old grump.
She's such a people watcher. She loves babies and she loves older men with facial hair. So she's always at the glass looking for people. So people, I think feel they have lots of moments with her because they really get up close and personal with her. And she just likes to hang out with people. We see artists, drawing her, and she'll sit there and pose for them because she just likes to hang out with people.
While Pupe isn't as agile as she used to be, so she enjoys her own space. Incidentally, she has 5 kids and 4 grandkids. Windfest took over part of Woodbine Beach today, or took over the skies rather. The festival continues all weekend, and luckily it looks like summer is still hanging on. But we're not sure for how much longer, so that's why Marta is back to give us a sense of whether we will.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Okay.
There's going to be at least one more day tomorrow of pure sunshine. It's going to be very hot. Look at this temperature, 18 degrees to start the day. That's already close to what the seasonal temperature is for the full day, which is 19 degrees in areas like Toronto. It's going to heat up to 26 degrees. It's going to feel more like 32. So definitely hot and humid and muggy. And that's because there's rain coming in, but it's not so much going to affect areas in through the GTA. You can see this front slicing through, and that rainfall, as I mentioned, so if you are at the cottage, you probably will see that shower, and it's going to be lots of rain throughout. Now, as that front passes through Toronto, GTA, you could see a passing shower in through the overnight hours, but it's not really going to be anything too significant. Much of that rain is staying north of the 401. So lots of that energy a little bit higher, not in through the GTA. But look at these temperatures. 26 in Toronto, feeling like 32. 28 in Windsor, feeling like 37. So the heat is definitely still there. Unfortunately, the temperatures are going to dip down a little bit, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. It's still going to be warm, and it's still going to be a nice fall day. 27 in Midland, 26 in Haliburton, this for Sunday. Now let's take a look at the temperature trend. So as that front passes through, there's going to be cooler air coming in behind it, and that's what's going to drop our temperatures a little bit, but it's not going to be too much. It's going to return to seasonal temperatures, so closer to 19, 20 for this time of year. Let's take a look at Monday. So that rain cloud is there, the potential, but it's only that passing shower, 28 degrees, and this is the 7-day forecast. As I mentioned, look at those temperatures, 26, 28, then it goes down to 23, 20, but really, who's complaining? Those are still beautiful temperatures. The humidity is gone. So that's more comfortable though, starting the work week. I mean, there's a slight chance of showers throughout, but not very heavy showers, just that random passing shower. You might see it in Mississauga, you might not see it in Toronto. So definitely a nice week ahead.
Great way to send off summer. Thanks.
Yes.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. As we go, here are some sights and sounds from the Harvest Fair today in Mount Pleasant Village. The annual street festival draws people from all over the GTA. Enjoy that beautiful Saturday evening, folks. Good night.